Welcome everyone. My name is Rüdiger Frank. I'm a professor at the Department of East Asian Studies at the University of Vienna, and I'm responsible for the English language two-year master's program on East Asian economy and society, which I founded in 2007. Today I will present the result of a project developed together with our students during the summer semester 2025. The project is a tool called the EcoS prompt generator, and it supports our master's students in using large language models, one form of artificial intelligence, to develop the theoretical parts of their thesis. In this talk, I will use the terms AI and LLM, or large language model, interchangeably, while of course being aware of the distinction. Our motivation was very practical: to increase the graduation rate. We have been doing quite well in the past, but I believe we still can do better. I noted that while most of my students passed coursework relatively easily, some stalled at the thesis stage. Specifically, they struggled to transition from answering preset questions, that's something they had been used to at high school and in their BA programs, to formulating their own academically rigorous and systematically structured research frameworks. The tool I will present today is only the latest step in a longer sequence of measures. It builds on earlier work, so I will briefly explain how we improved thesis supervision before developing the EcoS prompt generator. First, we adjusted the curriculum to create more space for acquiring and practicing core skills through term papers, exercise courses, and a dedicated research seminar. This helped, but I observed that students often struggle to recall what they had learned after longer interruptions, such as, for example, a year abroad or breaks for personal or professional reasons. So in the next step, I recorded instructional videos on key components of thesis writing and made them available on YouTube so that they can be accessed independently of current enrollment at the University of Vienna. Now, when I reviewed the access data, it became clear that still not all of my students were using this option. Moreover, the same recurring errors continued to appear in many submissions. As a result, I developed short checklists like the one shown here on the slide. Don't worry if the text is too small to read. I will explain this example in more detail in a moment. While these checklists further improved submissions, I was still not fully satisfied. In early 2024, it occurred to me that AI might offer a way to automate some of the highly standardized elements into which thesis supervision in my MA program is structured. The University of Vienna supported this idea by funding a new course and a student assistant position for one semester in 2025. From the outset, I wanted to involve students directly in developing the tool, both to learn from their perspectives, since we are all beginners in the field, so we are basically on the same level, and to encourage a focused and productive use of LLMs, because they are not going to go away. An early outcome of the project was the decision not to train our own AI model, which was the working hypothesis for quite a while actually. Although I had several hundred written feedbacks from previous years and initially considered building something like a custom GPT, we quickly recognized the many limitations of that approach. So instead, we concentrated on prompt engineering. In simple terms, and it really is simple, the student takes a carefully designed prompt, enters it into their own AI account, and receives structured feedback. This slide summarizes practical rules for effective prompt design, aimed at counteracting the LLM's tendency toward conformity, which you might have experienced yourself. First, explicitly ask for both strengths and weaknesses, and signal clearly that critical feedback is expected. Without this, models tend to produce overly affirmative answers. Second, reduce ambiguity by avoiding contradictory instructions, and also by including concrete examples of good and bad choices. Third, structure the interaction deliberately. Assign clear roles to user and to the LLM, and break complex tasks into sequential steps. Fourth, design questions very carefully. Open-ended questions can expose blind spots, while suggestive questions often generate self-confirming responses. So open-ended questions definitely are the better choice here. And finally, enforce discipline and iteration. Instruct the model to answer only when justified, to say so when it cannot, and remind users to validate outputs with other tools and sources. On the right of this screen, you see a screenshot of our tool, and that's basically it. That's the only thing that you will get to see. It's not very complicated. In practice, students would select the module for which they need a prompt and the type of thesis they are writing, and enter a title and research question, and then click Generate Prompt. That's all. The resulting prompt can be pasted into any LLM, be it ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, DeepSeek, Grok, and others. This freedom of choice is one key issue. By remaining platform agnostic, we didn't have to worry about which AI model would be the best next month, or which one would be available, which one would be politically incorrect, or which one would suddenly disappear behind a restrictively high paywall. These were concerns that actually discouraged us from pursuing this custom GPT venue any further. By the way, this also solved our GDPR or data security concerns, since we don't process student data, so we don't need complex data processing agreements. Very importantly, we also decided against asking the AI to give grades or to assign points. As mentioned earlier, I divided the thesis development process into clearly defined and logically connected stages that follow a largely linear sequence. For example, if a student is working on the research question, they select that option and the tool generates a prompt instructing the AI to check the relevant requirements. On this slide, you see the 5 options that are currently available in the drop-down menu. So let's remain for a while with the example of the research question. This is the first part of the checklist, what you see here marked in yellow, that served as the foundation for our prompt generator. For reasons of readability, I split it into 3 slides, but in reality, it's just 1 page. Not all items on the checklist obviously could be used for the AI prompt. For example, unless the student has intentionally or unintentionally informed the AI before, there's no way for an LLM to know whether the selected research question builds on the student's existing skills or knowledge. And as you can imagine, we had to explain some of these points to the AI in more detail. For example, what is meant by overly broad. We did that until we were satisfied with the feedback the AI or LLM gave us. While I learned that short checklists seem to work better for my students, better than longer explanations, LLMs handle large amounts of detailed instruction much more effectively. The prompts are therefore very long, sometimes several pages. What you see here on this slide, hardly readable, but I show you this to just show you the volume, the amount of text. What you see here on this slide is roughly 50% of the research question prompt. It includes specifications on role, context, key definitions, assessment criteria, refinement areas, output format, and core principles for the output. But why don't you test your own research question? Pause this presentation go to the URL as you see it on the slide, and then see what happens. Okay, I assume you're all back. We, of course, tested the outputs of all 5 modules and used the results to refine the prompts and to better understand both the strength and the limitations of using an LLM for this task. Even at this early stage, I'm happy to say that the results are clearly positive. Students now pre-screen their ideas before consulting me. As a result, our discussions no longer focus on basic grammar, logical issues, but on higher level disciplinary questions. In other words, the quality of individual student-supervisor interactions has improved significantly. It's important to stress that the AI does not replace the supervisor, it only enhances the quality of submissions. The supervisor remains the final authority, which provides students with the security they need to move forward with their research projects. At the same time, while quality has increased, I also have the impression that the time I invest in this part of my work has been reduced by at least 30%, if not more. I have received some initial feedback from my students. They appreciate the non-judgmental nature of the AI and the low threshold for consulting it. This is actually the main point. They can iteratively refine their projects and request feedback as often as needed. As a useful side effect, they also learn that LLMs are not always correct, since they are just statistical models at the end of the day, which is a very important insight, since LLMs and AI are going to be with us for the foreseeable future. So it's important to understand what they can do and what they cannot do. For many students, using AI to improve both their English and their logical reasoning at the same time has been a real game changer. And not least, the gap between students with different levels of spoken and written English has narrowed. If you want to implement this idea in your own program, I recommend starting with your rubrics. The prompt is only as good as the criteria you embed in it. Also, don't overcomplicate the tech. Our low-tech approach proved to be sustainable and very easy to update. This can be crucial given the huge dynamics in the AI field. You don't want to waste your resources on a format that becomes unusable next year. It's much more efficient, I would say, to focus on the substance. To sum up, I believe that the EcoS prompt generator demonstrates a responsible use of AI without sacrificing educational control. It addresses privacy, sustainability, and workload at the same time. It's easily scalable, and it can be continuously improved and adapted to new professional and legal requirements, as well as to future software developments. I hope you found this presentation useful, and I would like to encourage you to develop your own versions of the EPG. Everything we created is freely accessible, and we did so deliberately. Feel free to copy, modify, or adapt our prompts and our software. I very much welcome constructive, critical feedback and would be interested to learn about your own experiences. For now, thank you very much for your attention.